reunion edition. So this is the first reunion edition that I've done. And I looked back and Suzanne was here last year in December. So this all just worked out. This was the Lord's doing, and I am dedicating this next few minutes to Suzanne. We're following up with her from Positively Suzanne, and we're able to, for the first time, actually follow up with somebody in their spiritual journey. That's the motto of the Kimpowerment Radio Show, is to equip you on your spiritual journey. And I am so excited. And here today, I am turning the entire floor over to Suzanne. I know she can handle that. And I'm not going to be butting in. I just want her to spend the time just telling us where God has taken you from last year this time to right now. So you have the floor. Welcome, wow. Suzanne, for our reunion edition.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Kim, for welcoming me to the show again. I truly appreciate it. I love what you do. I got to give you your flowers. I admire you, and I just love to see you flourish on your spiritual journey and be a blessing to others. So thank you for that. And thank you to Boston Praise Radio for the opportunity to be on here again. So thank you so much. All right. I am so excited. And, forgive my mic for those of you who are watching live. If you notice, the crown is fabulous, so this will not fit over it. So if any creators out there are thinking of developing headphones, kind of really think about it for those with an afro, okay? Because we need one that fits that. All right, so the reunion show, I love that. I just watched the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion again, so those are always really great things. So in my spiritual journey, so the last time I was here, I really talked about a lot of the things that I was doing. I talked about my book. I talked about the podcast, Sit Down with Suzanne, that I have. And I hadn't really shared this verbally at the time, but I was in the process of really thinking about what I wanted to do. And I was in retail at the time. And I know I made a pledge to myself that this is going to be my last year in retail leadership. And, it wasn't an easy decision because I'd been in there for over 20 years, and I was comfortable. And what happens sometimes is when you're comfortable in something, you choose not to step out on faith, even when God is telling you to step out on faith. I know I said it as saved as I am. Sometimes, I do pull back and says, but God, really? Is that what you want me to do? And, but I knew that it was time for me to move forward and branch out. Some other things happened during that time. I certainly tried to move in a direction in my career, but I really was going to God and asking, God, lead me, because I truly believe that, my purpose on this earth is to be a blessing to others, to empower others, and to help them find, who they are. And I'm happy to say that in May of this year, I did step out on faith with some strategic planning and jumped out of that retail leadership role and just fully jumped into my own brand, which is the Positively Suzanne brand, the entrepreneurial journey. Also got my license and became a mortgage loan officer, because that also helps folks, and been just living and loving life ever since.
Well, that is fabulous. We love to hear things like that on the Kimpowerment Radio Show. I've watched you grow from last year this time until now. You and I have talked offline several times about your vision and where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do and how, you wanted to see Positively Suzanne flourish. And I always told you I knew you'd be in Hollywood, so I know that's next and that's coming. But talk to us about, for those out there who are getting ready to start something, talk about some of the maybe intrepidations that you've had, or the inhibitions that you've had, or the fears that you had, because and a lot of times I know that studies have been done and people really are not afraid of failure. They're really actually afraid to win. They're actually afraid of the responsibility and the pressures that come along with succeeding and doing well and flourishing and winning. There's pressures associated with winning as well as pressures associated with losing. So if you could speak for the next few minutes about how you were able to overcome that with God, and what type of guidance would you give anyone who knows there's a call to do something, but they're just timid and they're afraid to kind of step out there and do that. If you could speak to that.
All right. Well, thank you. I mean, you didn't make that easy, but I'll try. No, and that's interesting that you said that, because I actually had a conversation with a coaching client recently in regards to that. Not being afraid of failure. And you're right. I think a lot of times when people see success, they are afraid, because it's like, what if I do this and I really win? Like, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when you get successful, your stomach's in knots, because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you're starting to say, like, what did I do to deserve this? Should I have gotten this? And things like that. So there is a lot wrapped into that. So I do believe you are correct in that extent. Folks are afraid of success. For me personally, and I'll say this, my faith is so important to me. Foremost of everything, I want folks to know that, I trust God in all that I do, and He has led me. That I know that I was born with certain skill sets and, character traits that has made me successful. But there is time that I do question, like, okay, God, like, should I be satisfied with this? You've already given me so much. Why am I pushing myself to this? Am I being ungrateful, not just accepting, where I am, because I wasn't doing bad. I just wasn't passionate about it anymore. And I didn't feel like I was fulfilling my purpose, fulfilling my call. And, I had a lot of late night conversations with God and, with myself to say, what if I step out on this faith? And it's not even that if I fail, but like, what if I step out and this is not what I want? Because sometimes, like, you're calling, is it from God, or is it really just because you see something and, you're good at it and, let me do it because, I'm good at wearing gowns, but find me a job that will pay me to wear gowns. I'll do it all day. but I think God, He gives you downloads. And I think that as a woman of faith, as a person of faith, we do have to trust that He will provide. You might question it sometimes, and I'll be real with you here. I'll always be honest. I have a husband and I have kids and I have mortgage and car payments and all these bills. And, as an entrepreneur, if you don't sell, you don't eat, right? And oftentimes your output is greater than your input. And you have to really think about, if I step out on faith, you still need money, what do you do? So I had a lot of those conversations, and you know what? God led me to, He gave me these skill sets. He downloaded those things into me. And, there is no vision without provision, right? And I felt that He was with me. And even if I failed, there is no rule of thumb that says that if you try something that doesn't work, that you have to stick to it. You can't change it. I mean, the Bible teaches us that. Faith teaches us that. Mm-hmm. If you fall down, you can get up again, and you can get up again, and you can get up again. And you know what? I mean, I really wanted to truly become everything that I felt that I was created to be. Mm-hmm. And I felt that I couldn't become that person if I stayed in a place that was comfortable, if I stayed in a place that didn't challenge me, and if I stayed in a place that I wasn't constantly growing and learning. So yes, I did step out on faith, but there was a lot of conversations with God, with myself, with my husband, with my immediate circle, and I'm grateful that I did it. There has been some missteps along the way. There's been some wins, some losses, some laughter, some tears, but that is life. That is the beautiful thing about life. That, my testimony, for me, it's fantastic. And I know that my girls are seeing this, my friends, you, the folks that follow me are seeing this, and, they're seeing my triumphs along with my struggles. I will say that I was born with the ability to be positive, and I don't take that lightly, because I know a lot of folks struggle with being positive in certain areas. And I'm just I'm always trying to find the silver lining. And, even when I'm down, I really try to find the positive in it. And that's why if you follow me on social media under Positively Suzanne, you find that most of my posts are centered around faith, about being positive, about, creating your inner joy, because you kind of reflect what you feed. So I choose to feed my faith. I choose to feed my joy, and I choose to feed the gifts that God has given to me. So when folks look at me, they'll see that reflection. They'll see God. They'll see my faith. They'll see joy, and hopefully that inspires them to feed into their faith, their joy, and to just go after it.
That was excellent. I picked up on when you said to just go after it. The ups and the downs are going to come whether you do it or not. One of my really good sister friends, I know she doesn't like to be called on the radio, but her mother used to tell her that, and she would tell me that all the time. Go for it and do something, because the time is going to pass anyway. So the time can pass and you don't do anything, or the time can pass and you can do something. So that's something that a motto that I like to stick to as much as I can. But I heard you talk about, there were some missteps, but it was okay. You still were able to keep moving. A misstep is still a step. It's just, a misstep, but it's still a step. You're still moving. You're still growing. And when you talked about, not being in a career or a profession anymore, that you weren't feeling the passion anymore. You weren't passionate about doing that role anymore. And when that happens, it's definitely a sign. You did the right thing. You consulted God. You consulted your family. You said you went to your circle. And, those are huge life-changing decisions. And it's tough, for her to, give up what she thought was her career, right? What she thought was her lifelong dream, and she did very well in her career. It wasn't like she was failing and just falling apart at the seams at her job. She was excelling in it. So, what I hear is, how do you leave something that you're excelling in? So I want to put that back on you, just to go a little bit deeper into how tough was it, or was it tough for you to leave a position that you were excelling in? A lot of times it's easy to leave a job because you didn't like it anyway, or maybe you weren't doing so well. Maybe you didn't get a great evaluation, so you say, I don't need this, I can leave. No harm, no foul. But you were actually excelling. How do you walk away from an excel?
Well, okay. So I'm actually going to go back to, I know we always we're going to go back, but what you said, and that is so true. I actually had a friend who had shared that experience with me about, them going to college. And I think about when I went back to school to get my degrees, and, I'd taken a year off, and 1 year turned into 20. And when I decided to go back, and I was just like, I was procrastinating, and I was like, wait, the years are going to go by whether I go back or not. So I just bite the bullet, and I went back, and lo and behold, 6 years went by, and, I was out of school. So you're right. I mean, if you start, whether you start or not, the time's going to go by, because time waits for no man. I have found that out, honey. All right. So, no, you are correct. It is easier to leave something that is toxic. And I'm not saying that there were not opportunities in my workplace, and, certain individuals that, I genuinely think that, we had some opportunity for growth there. But I felt that I was very successful. I'd been in retail leadership for a long time. I'd been in many different roles. I'd been district managers, operations manager, hiring manager, customer service manager. I did a lot. I excelled. I got paid well. I was promoted, and I felt that, a lot of folks knew my reputation, and they knew who I was and what I stood for. And I loved it for a very long time. I was so passionate about it. And a lot of folks don't like retail, but I was passionate about it. The recruiting, the hiring, the making a difference in someone's life, to promoting them to next level, to mentoring and all of that, to interacting with the customers. Those are things that I was so passionate about. I love it. But over the past couple of years, I noticed a shift, and, I wasn't as passionate about it, but I did it because I can't be fake. So I'm very authentic. I'm like, if you know me, you know. And, I'm just like I said, I choose joy. And like, every day I'm at work, you're not going to see me miserable. But internally, I was struggling with, okay, I am transitioning, from this role. I'm transitioning from this career. And, one of the things I had said, when I was having these conversations with God, I was like, am I being ungrateful? I'll be honest with you. That's a question that I ask because here I'm in a career that God's placed me in, that I did well, that I was promoted in, that I was getting calls from different companies to be for different roles, for store managers, for district managers, things like that. I actually was interviewing at the time for different roles. I had gotten this amazing opportunity to travel all over the country and, do stores and all of that. So there are all these things coming at me, and, to say, God, am I being ungrateful that I'm blessed with so much? Like, why can't I just be happy? So that was something that I had to deal with because I was like, but God wants us to have abundance. And then, I had to like talk to myself, and it's not being ungrateful because it's not like I was at home, whining and crying like, oh, I hate my job. Right. I just wanted more. And there was nothing wrong with wanting more. And, that's what I think that, as Christians, sometimes like, we feel like we have to suffer. And, God wants us to have more. You're faithful, you're obedient, you serve God, you do things well, you do things right. You are going to get promoted and elevated. And the things that you do, you're going to excel. So it was... For me, I think that was the bigger factor to just make sure that I wasn't being ungrateful, to want something more. And then there was being from the island, in my culture, there were some folks that thought I was a little crazy that I would leave like a well-established career to go to something that, like I said, if you don't sell, you don't eat. And it's something that, they hadn't seen. Remember the first time when I said I was doing a podcast, and, so a couple of times folks is like, but Black folks don't do podcasts. This is... So I got that a lot, and I was like, okay, maybe then we should, because that is now a $1 billion industry. And there's a lot of folks that look like me that are doing podcasts, but maybe, we just don't know about it. So it's not an easy decision. I will say this. It is a lot easier to leave if it's a toxic environment. But I think we have to ask ourselves, like, as you go through life, what do you want to show for your life? What do you want to say that you do? And do you want to be passionate about the things that you do? And I do. I was and I wasn't. Like, you outgrow things, I used to like pants a long time ago. I really don't anymore. So, you outgrow things, and there's nothing wrong with growth. There's nothing wrong with outgrowing things. And I just felt that I outgrew it. I felt that I gave it my best, and I felt that I did a lot that I was proud of, and I met a lot of great contacts, but it was time. It was time for me to step out and embrace and fully be Suzanne. And you know what? God guide me. My husband is one of my biggest supporters. If I say to him I want to become a pilot, like, he'll be on YouTube researching, how to get your pilot license when you're 6 feet tall and wear heels, right? So, I'm grateful for the circle that I have, and I include you in that has always been so passionate about cheering me on. And that's what people don't realize. Like, your circle is so important. Like, I cheer folks on, but other folks cheer me on too. And, I don't suffer from low self-esteem. So, and that's from God. That confidence is from God. And, if he's behind me, how can I fail? How can I fail?
That's excellent. You just said, if he's behind me, how can I fail? So it's not even an option. Not an option at all. And I just love to hear you talk with such exuberance about just how excited you are about the journey that you're on, and you're still on the journey. And, just being so transparent and so candid with us, that's definitely helping people. There's so many people out there who have all these great ideas. They have all this knowledge, but they have no intention of sharing it. They have no intention of helping anybody. They keep it all to themselves. It's all bottled up, and you're not helping anybody. And it's definitely not a good path to be on. If you have the knowledge, share it with others. Don't worry about somebody's going to blow up your spotlight. Somebody's going to take your idea and steal it. Chances are it's not going to happen. There's enough positivity out there for all of us, I feel. So now I would like to ask you, tell us about all of the wonderful things that you have going. I see the teas, I see the balls, I see all of these great events that you're at. And if you also want to share anything about that, you are free to talk about those things and, tell us about any of the speaking engagements that you've had and just all the amazing opportunities that you've had.
Okay. All right. So when I decided to dive into this role, I don't do anything halfway, right? Like I jumped in all the way because I was like, you know what? I spent years building other brands. I spent years building other corporations. Like I'm going to give the same amount of energy to my business, to my brand. And so when I jumped into it, I didn't look back. Yeah, I do have one or two things coming up, right? Yeah, so when I started in May, because it was like May that I left, I started doing vendor events. As you know, the Positively Suzanne brand, I have merchandise. So I have the t-shirts, which is Inspire, Motivate, and Empower, and it's available on my website, www.positivelysuzanne.com. So I have the t-shirts, which are the tenets of my brand. I had those, and then I have a jewelry line that I had from a business that I had a few years ago, which is just a collection of statement pieces, which, the motto is every woman deserves to look like a queen. And I started doing vendor events and just popping up all over. And like, it was an opportunity for me to go to different spaces and, meet with other people and see other vendors. So I did a lot of that during the summer. I also did workshops. Like I did workshop at the Village talking about how to get to you, how to eliminate all the clutter and all the things that keeps us from being fully us, authentically us. So I did that workshop. And during that time, I did become a mortgage loan officer, as I said. And, I facilitate first-time home buyers workshop for folks who are looking to buy a home, and going to a lot of different networking events. Like if it's for real estate, I'm there. If it's empowerment and anything about female empowerment and community, I was there because I was very invested in my community, and especially my community, the Black community, the Black women community, the spiritual community. I wanted women to see other women that looked like them, other entrepreneurs that looked like them, people that were fully invested in their faith and just truly invested in being positive and living their best life, and hopefully inspire others, like you had said earlier, just inspire others to execute their idea. I was able to execute mine, and they could see themselves reflected in me, and they could execute their idea.
That was excellent. I hear that we have a comment.
You do, and it's actually from Ruth Jordan Oliver.
Oh, my mom.
Hello, darling.
And she says, God bless to Suzanne and Kimberly J. Oliver. She says, true, if God's behind you, how can you fail?
Yes. Now, I love, Mom, thank you so much for reiterating that. That thought, because that hit me too when Suzanne said that. She said, if God's behind you, you don't have any other option. You're not going to fail. You're not going to fail. You're not going to fail. And I appreciate that. Thank you for commenting. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sister Ruth. I love and adore you. You know that she's always so powerful and encouraging. So thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So, continuing what else is happening for Positively Suzanne. So, as you know, I used to do tea parties for myself because, like I said, I intentionally seek joy. And tea parties were something that I did for myself. I would get dressed up. I'd go on my porch and have these little tea parties. And I posted these, and folks are always wanted an invitation to my tea parties. And then, I was like, okay, well, why not? So I started tea parties where, I would sell the tickets and women would come, and it's just an afternoon of celebrating each other, elevating each other, highlighting other women, and just drinking tea and eating scones and just having a really good time. And, you know, the first one was very successful. The second one was very successful. I was like, all right. So I was like, and I'm getting calls to do another. And I'm like, okay, guys, I'm doing one or two things here. And then, you know, I've always liked dressing up in gowns and always wanted to go to a ball, and I couldn't find any, and I was like, well, why not have one? So December 17, and I am having a royal ball. And same thing, you know, people purchase their tickets. Yeah, I'm so excited. So you come dressed up, glitz and glamour. You find dining, dancing. The ticket sales did close yesterday because I do have to get the orders in, but that is something else that we're doing. You know, and for next year, I do have a couple more tea parties planned. I have a Mother's Day brunch planned, and I am working on something right now that I'm hoping to, you know, for Black History Month that's coming up. I'm hoping to do a couple of things for Black History Month just to celebrate and embrace, you know, everything about our culture. As you know, the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast, it's just wrapped its third season, and we're starting the fourth season in January, and then we're launching something new.
Yay, I can't wait. I can't wait.
So yes, so every Wednesday there is going to be a live show, and it's the Sippin' Tea with Suzanne.
Yay! I'm glad that it was heard about and talked about here on the Kimpowerment Radio Show. I'm still excited. I know we're closing up and we're wrapping up, but I wanted to do this reunion edition where I actually got to follow up with someone. So this is the second time that Suzanne has been on within a year, and she had a full recap, and she's still moving full steam ahead. We're excited. We want to continue to promote her, continue to wish her well, and that the Lord bless and keep you, and that you continue to flourish. So again, this is goodbye for today on the Kimpowerment Radio Show with my special guest, Suzanne, Positively Suzanne. Look out for her next year in 2023, because I know she's going to have something great and powerful for you as well. So again, thank you to WPBG for letting me host on this platform. Thank you to our technicians for the day, my good friend, Minister Franklin Wendell Hobbs, for assisting us today, being our engineer. So goodbye until next year. That is the next time I will be with you and see you. Will be January of 2023. I love you all, and thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.